Hi, it's John at C Nation, and you are tuned into the Kush Journals. Join me and my occasional guests each weekday as we discuss all things cannabis in the great state of Utah. Hey, it's John at C Nation, and you are tuned in to the Kush Journals. Say hi, Jules.
Hi, Jules. Every time, I'm sorry. Hi, guys.
It's all good, because I have to tell you, I missed it yesterday. You knew I blew that audio. I couldn't find it anywhere. I looked high and low. I even tried to restore some, back to, restore points on my computer in case. I don't know what I did with it, but it just failed. But I'm glad you're here because we had a pretty fun conversation with Amy Anderle, didn't we?
Yes, we did. She was a very sweet person.
Going 900 miles a minute in 900 different directions. I felt for her because when we showed up to speak with her, had a huge corner lot, didn't they?
Yeah, I was walking through. It was nice.
It was. There were people there constantly through the whole show, and rightly so, because they had a lot of very good stuff to say. But right when we showed up there, she was just like a pinball in a pinball. I mean, just everywhere, all things to all people. And the conversation that we had with her was really a whirlwind. I mean, it was just like bam, bam, bam. And I'm glad because Amy knew more about what she wanted to say than maybe I knew what to ask her. What they do, not necessarily what legal does, legal services in Denver, her and her husband's dispensary there, but more the RII side of that. I'm still trying to put a name to a face. I'm still trying to get a handle on all of this stuff because it's not as straightforward as, hey, sell me a gram of that. It's way, yeah. I mean, you guys will hear the interviews in, this one, Amy and Derek tomorrow, and you'll understand that what they're doing is super important.
They're passionate. So passionate about it.
And it's not that simple. While it's roughly straightforward, I don't know. I feel like we could have an ongoing weekly conversation with them. Like what's in my weed or sustainability or all of this stuff. And it would take a year for me to get a handle on what it is they're doing. Anyway, this conversation, our interview with Amy Anderle, it just starts and it just stops. That's just how it goes. When we're done with this little bit of stalling for time, let's jump into this conversation with Amy Anderle, owner at Legal Services in Denver, and so much more than that.
So this is really what we're here launching.
Okay.
And it's a whole marketing campaign, a PSA that's targeted towards consumers. And it's trying to get them to make the same connections that they do with every other pattern of item that they buy. So cage-free eggs, grass-fed beef, no hormones in my milk, a BPH-free water bottle. I mean, we could go on and on. Fair trade coffee. Well, they're not asking anything of cannabis. They're just believing the branding. And that's not good enough.
Being the consumer.
The consumer.
Okay.
And it's really important for them to know that, I think it's intimidating. When cannabis was first legal, you walk into a store with your fistful of dollars and you're kind of like, am I allowed to be here? And what consumers need to know is that they command what's on the shelves. Not only are they allowed to be there, they're the reason it exists. And so if they want to know, if they want to say what's in my vape cartridge, or what's in those edibles, how was that extracted, and they want certification to back that up, they should get it. John and I look trustworthy and we have a good story behind us, but our consumers shouldn't be enough for them.
Right.
They should say, okay, you guys look trustworthy and you have a good story behind you. Now, how do you back it up? And you need to have certification in order to do that. And the certifications that exist are imperfect. They're not tailor-made towards cannabis and all of its many ways of being cultivated, whether it's outdoors, greenhouse, hydroponics, living soil, but there needs to be something. There's a starting place, and there are a lot of certifications out there, and if people at least have a certification or they try to do something, then I think that empowers consumers to know that they can continue to push for more and more.
Are high THC percentages one of your biggest roadblocks? How much is in that chem dog? 30%
Potency
sold.
hunters.
Yeah, right.
Potency hunters. That's what they call them in
You have
Denver.
to overcome that, do you think?
know, I think that's a certain type of consumer.
Okay.
And that's a certain type of demographic. And though, yes, we can serve them, that if we had to dig down into my brand's niche consumer, like who was our customer? What is their persona? That's not them. Our customer understands that it's not just about how much THC, but what is that profile? And if they don't understand and they come in and that's what they ask for, we sure do hope that our sales team that we invest so much time and energy for and that they're the experts, that they teach them to ask more. You know, I think when you first start drinking alcohol, you learn about alcohol percentages. And then you realize you have a choice. You don't just have to have what they have at the party.
That's a fair
And then you get to buy what you like. And you know that you're drunk on whiskey is different than you're drunk on sake. And so then you start to narrow it down. And eventually you know what you like. And you probably drink something different than... And so where it's not alcohol, but you try to find the right analogy for cannabis. And I think that if people will start to learn to ask more questions, one of those questions should be, how are you certifying your product? If you say you're organic and you say that that's good for me and there's nothing bad in that XYZ many different products, how do I know? Oh, well, the testing in our state. Really, FDA does testing too nationally, and that's not good enough for consumers. They still want organic. They still want GMO-free.
That's true.
They still want everything else. So testing doesn't cover enough. It's something, but it doesn't cover enough. So then what's the next question? And as we chip away, I think that we'll learn whether it be through organic. We have a sustainability certification in the city of Denver from the Department of Health and Environment that helps to substantiate that, yes, every year we turn in our metrics and we're doing better. And then now the RII has their power. So you've got to have something that you're doing that's backing up what you're saying, or you lose all credibility. You go to all of these meetings right now and they're talking about branding. It's all about your brand. You got to have your brand. You got to get out there. Your brand is more than a t-shirt and a hat. You've got to have some substance behind it. And so I walk around this, expo and I see these brands and you're like, it looks organic, looks sustainable, look at their pretty packaging, looks recyclable, but it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, but there's nobody saying, what's behind it. And I think that's where certifications are important. That's where validating what you're doing is important. That's where having a non-bias entity come in and sign off on it. Because separately, we've been in business running our operation Open Doors since 2010, which is like a million years for cannabis right now.
At legal, right?
At legal,
okay.
Right? And I know I have run into, in the past 8 years, other owners who feel as passionately about organic as I do. But they're not in the grow every day. And I know some of those owners who've had recalls right under their noses. Because you can tell your cultivator to do one thing, and that doesn't mean that's what they're always doing. So it's a stopgap measure for the consumer, but then you're also the safety of your protecting your own brand and knowing how to, where are the checks and balances for everybody involved.
You are organic. I mean,
we are
one of one, one of two.
So we're the only
only
Clean Green certified organic cultivation facility and dispensary that is recreational in the city of Denver. In the state of Colorado, there are a couple others in other states, and that are also medical. So yes, we have that, and it's a good certification. But there are things that could be more robust. There are things that could be adjusted given the way that we cultivate indoors versus outdoors. But right now, it's the best thing.
Well, no, I think it's important, and I'm going to stop by and probably buy something and find out. But from a consumer standpoint, you bring up some interesting things. Is it cage-free? Is it non-GMO? Is it this? I shop that way.
Who's teaching us how to shop for cannabis?
I didn't even know I could shop that way at Legal or anywhere else. That it's organic?
That's what this is doing. That's why I'm on this board. Okay. Because I know that it's going to benefit my brand, but it's also going to benefit a lot of people out there that are trying to do right, that have gone through the steps of spending the extra money to cultivate this way, that have gotten, certifications, and they get nothing for it. They can't charge an extra penny more because consumers right now, they look for price or potency.
Right,
and
right.
there is a segment of consumers that looks for more, but we need to develop it, and we need to evolve the consumer to empower them and know that they command what's in the stores.
Well, we talk on our shows quite a bit about, the tested versus what you can get on the street, and how you can actually know what's in your cannabis if you buy from dispensaries and whatnot. But I didn't even know we could buy organic cannabis. And how dumb is that? I'm kind of a guy that's in the cannabis. I know a lot,
and that's to
but
say
I guess
that's
I don't.
And again, the testing isn't everything. They're not testing for systematic pesticides from cloning stage all the way to flower.
Okay.
They're testing your end product flower. So testing is good, but think about the FDA. Yeah, all of my food is tested. It doesn't mean, or it's approved by the FDA,
right,
and it's on the shelves, but that's not good enough for me. I take it a step further, and then I go to organic, because FDA says Monsanto, genetically modified whatever is okay too, but
they take the terpenes out of that stuff.
Right, so I'm going to go a little bit further, and then and what is the impact that these companies are having, and how are they growing, and what resources are they using, and what's the impact they're having on their communities, and if they are treating their plants with products or pesticides, is there runoff, is there drift, how are they dealing with their waste?
So
composting.
If someone says that they are certified, how do you do the research to see if they are? Do you
go to what'sinmyweed.com, and there will be a clearinghouse there of state by state of who has what certifications. And all for the time being, we have amassed every certification that exists for cannabis, and it's just a consumer sort of a resource, informational resource. Here you can look in Colorado who's got this certification, in Washington State, in Michigan, in everywhere. And then they can make a decision, and they can dig deeper from there.
So what has been your reception with cultivators? Do a lot just not care and they're just going to continue to grow up? A lot just said, oh, we want in on this so badly. How's that
My
been?
husband and I don't have any investors to answer to. What it costs us to grow per pound and what we sell
Amen.
it to is ridiculous. And it is a stupid business decision, and we're not making as much money as we should.
Right.
But we are playing tortoise in the hare. We're the tortoise.
Sure.
This is going to be a niche. It's a brand. We've already been able to establish it. Cultivators, maybe even a cultivator wants to cultivate organically, but their owner or their investor won't let them because of the bottom line. Or the resources don't exist. It's very hard for us to get nutrients. It's very hard for us to get composting companies to work with us that aren't cost prohibitive.
I was at a conference a month ago in San Jose, and I sat in the audience and listened to a cultivator say that his cost of goods is 9 cents a gram. There is no way that a cultivator like that cares about any of this stuff, does he? 9 cents you couldn't.
No, you couldn't. But you know what? In our country, there's conventional and there's organic food. We don't need everybody to be organic.
That's true.
But we need the consumers to know the difference.
Amen. That's a great perspective. Absolutely.
Because there are enough consumers. Walmart didn't carry organic produce because it was a good idea for their bottom line.
Right.
They did it because they knew they'd lose shoppers if they didn't offer. Target carries organic produce now. They carry organic beef products. Trader, all these companies have this. I think Ben said out of fruits and vegetables, only 6 to 10% of all the fruits and vegetables sold in the country are organic.
Oh, it's that high, is it?
It might even be 6%, I think is the number. So we're not looking for everybody, but we think that consumers should know the difference. Because we can't be in that race to the bottom. We'll lose. We've got big players there. So.
Yeah, indeed. Well.
Right? And composting. You know how much it costs us to compost all of our product out of the cultivation facility? And what that does, you think about $+ per square foot per year just to compost, when I could just throw it away. Like, you've got to incentivize people to be better, or at least recognize them when they're doing better.
Yeah, right.
So your facility in Denver, are you all under one roof?
We are.
All of that. So we've seen that.
Yeah, and we're vertically integrated. So whereas we can't sell anything wholesale and get what we need to for it, because the wholesale market right now in Colorado is below our cost to produce it. But having a store and driving business to the store allows us to continue to do what we do. So vertically integrated to us is really important.
Well, labors of love are important to us because it's not all about the money. You might as well make some money along the way.
Absolutely. But you said something that I didn't mention, which is labor. And we spend a lot of money on our staff. We pay them above a living wage. We cover insurance costs. We think that, part of our impetus for doing sustainability, but particularly organics, is also the safety of the workers. And so Cannabis Certification Counsil, and I know RII, you'll see it in our tunnel, we talk about fair labor practices, which is a big deal in, I know, California, a lot of these outdoor farms. And if you've ever spent a day trimming marijuana, never. No. Cannabis, never. If you could last 3 hours, it'd be amazing.
I wouldn't.
And these people do it all day long, every day, and what are the conditions, and how are they, and we rely on them. So I think from cultivators all the way into we don't call them bud tenders, but our sales associates.
Good.
And just what is the impact of your staff? Because branding, they are your brand.
Yeah.
Whether they're a former employee, you hope they talk about it nicely, like our guys at Urban Grow do, or, a current employee, they're out relaying everything to your consumers.
We have a ballot initiative in November. Does a company like yours look at a place like Salt Lake City, Utah, and say, "Hey, I think we could play there"? Or are you looking to expand out of Colorado ever? Oh, well, nationally maybe, but
I mean, yes.
I mean,
and
I know
no.
it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's a gazillion dollars to.
We would love to be more places, but could we be doing what we're doing if we were spread too thin?
Well,
and I think that's where we get caught up. And we've done some consulting on grows, and I think that's probably where we're going to have a lot of impact. We'd love to have other stores, but more stores, more problems.
There are parts of Utah where this story is a resounding story, and it plays very well because these aren't posers. This is the lifestyle of people. And that was the point of my question. I mean, I know it's very expensive for companies. We can't cross state lines, obviously, to just stop, go to a new state, and build from the ground up. We know it's horribly expensive. And on the other hand, to be a licensor of that to someone in another state,
absolutely.
You lose a little.
You do, but
you
if you can maintain your brand, and I think that would be okay. And you talk about as states open up and where this would have traction. And I've said this a couple times today. Everyone who's 21 to 30 that's interested in ingesting or smoking or participating in cannabis probably already is.
Sure.
Probably. So the market is lifestyle of health and wellness, people using it for medical reasons, 55 and over, moms like me, someone who wants this you see the nutraceuticals is a big talk at this show too.
Right.
How nutraceutical could it be if it's not organically cultivated and you're putting it in your body for nutritional benefit? I think that we're going to see this niche evolve as the demographics evolve.
I do too, for sure.
And that there is the people that are coming to cannabis right now, look at the way that they're marketing. It's much more healthy instead of like rad do marketing.
It's perceptibly changing.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Well, Jules, didn't we say that was a whirlwind interview with Amy?
Yes, we did.
And listening to that and the few times we've listened to it to kind of clean up the audio and whatnot, I feel like we really need to revisit Amy and this topic. I know she was busy we had a million things going on too, and there's so much more to it. There's just so much more to what they're doing, and I really want to dig in on that. And one thing that I know that we want to take up with Amy is that just in the last day or two, the Cannabis Certification Counsil rolled out roughly their very first campaign designed to educate consumers about what's in my weed. Just like she talked about in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough consumers in dispensaries are actually asking, what's in my weed? What's in my cannabis? They're just saying, give me that and I'm out, gone. She's 100% correct. This is an uphill battle, but it's worthwhile because just as she points out, we want to know what's in our clothing, what's in our plastics, what's in our food, what's in our water, what's in our everything except our cannabis for some reason. And I think a lot of that obviously has to do with the fact of, well, how have most people smoked cannabis over the years? They've grabbed the bag, they've loaded up. We've never considered, we've never cared, we've never wondered, because it had THC in it, and we were cool with all of that. Well, we're learning there's probably stuff in there we don't want, and we should be informed consumers. And her point is really excellent. The whole world doesn't have to be organic, but consumers should know the difference between conventional and between organic cannabis. Anyway, Jules, thanks so much for going to New Orleans with us.
Yes, it was a blast.
It was. Thanks so much for your participation in all of these interviews and on this podcast. And Amy Anderle, thank you so much for your time.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
It absolutely was, and we're seriously going to try and circle back around and see if we can have some further discussions on all of this. Thanks. The Kush Journals is a copyrighted broadcast of the South American Gold Corporation. We appreciate your likes and shares on social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.